Hey there, my friend. Steve Gamlin here. Welcome to a brand new episode of the Motivational Firewood Radio Show. Today's guest is a guy I've known for a couple of years now. His name is Dustin G Johnson, and Dustin is a fitness and nutrition coach. He is a speaker, hit some big stages throughout the year. He's also the founder of Iron Sharpens Iron and the Iron Table, and that's a values-based leadership community working to develop the skills needed to be great in leaders and also to live a life of purpose and meaning for business
Mm,
professionals. So many people think,
come
oh,
on.
it's business, business, business. We're human
Yeah.
beings, man, and you're coaching
Mm,
people through the entire experience. So first off, Dustin, welcome to the show. And second, man, how did you get here?
man, thanks for having me on, Steve. If we had a few days, I could tell you how we got here, but it's been through as you said, like I'm a speaker. I'm also the author of a book, and it's called Strength Through Struggle. And real talk, like from the struggles, man, through going through the struggles of life and finding strength and finding who I was or who I am and whose I am and what I believe in, what I believe in. Like I think a lot of us get caught in the worldly ways and the worldly views, and so finding me, like I'm in the process, I think, of writing another book. I think it's going to be called A Journey Back to Self. But to real talk, like getting back to me, and it's taken a lot of challenges and a lot of things. And when you say like the business world, man, I feel like a lot of people are focused on the business itself instead of like handling their business, which means your marriage, your health, your money, your like all those things. And I just feel like somewhere inside of me, man, I've been on my own journey of personal development and learning to lead myself, because like at the end of the day, leading yourself is the hardest thing you'll ever do. And in being your best self for yourself, not for anybody else, not because someone told you to, not because of anything you believe, but like because you have a desire to be your best self and learn to do the things, learn to discipline, learn to, take action, learn to put yourself out there, be vulnerable, have relationships, do those things. I believe when you learn to lead yourself, then you can learn to lead your family. And when you can learn to lead your family and your wife trusts you and your kids trust you and all that happens, then you can learn to lead a community or a group or whatever that is. And so for me, it's like, if you know how to run your business, then run your business, but I'll help you handle your business moving up to that, so that when you get to the top of your ladder, when you get to the top of your success, and you have all the money and you have all the car, like you're not living in a house by yourself because your family left. You're not rich with nobody around. You're not, driving a fancy car and nobody's riding with you, or 300 pounds overweight, or whatever that is. Like I see so many successful, rich people that are divorced and miserable, living in huge houses with nice cars all by themselves. And like that's not handling your business. So that's what I'm passionate about, man. It's helping people live the life and keep the things that they're working for.
Yeah, and you just struck a chord with me because what you just said about somebody who's, the trappings of success in the traditional sense of how too many people describe it. I got a buddy of mine who's been very successful. He's a franchisee. He owns one or two locations, and he's done very, very well for himself. And he's also one of the greatest energy people I know. Well, his business mentor when he was starting out was this guy who was all money, 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 grind, grind, grind. And he got a call one day from the guy's wife who said, the guy had passed away at a young age because he never took care of himself. But she was almost in tears saying, would you please be one of the pallbearers? She could not get six people to escort this guy's casket for the funeral because the guy just was not a nice human being. His own kids were either all addicted or in jail or both. I don't know how his wife stayed with him all these years, but he had all this money and he had the most miserable life, miserable
Yeah.
health. She literally couldn't find six people to carry
Yeah.
his casket. And that to
You,
me, not success, man.
yeah. And there's nothing sadder about that. And like realistically, like what's on my mind right now is like there is nothing more expensive than the cost of regret, and getting all the way to the end and thinking that everything you did was worthwhile. Now, don't get me wrong. Like I like money. I like to have nice things. I like to do all those things. But if you are needing to lose your marriage, if you are needing to miss your kids' events or growing up, if you are needing to sell your soul, or if you are needing to be someone who you are not, if you are needing to be a shyster or a cheat or a lie, like if you are needing to be something or someone that you are not to get to the top of your ladder, when you get to the top of your ladder, you will be a life full of regret. And regret is a very, very costly thing.
Yeah. And one of the reasons that I wanted to have you on the show, because first off, you're somebody I respect a lot, because you didn't learn all this in some little online course. You didn't get this little paper
No.
certificate to talk about it. There's a picture, even before I met you the first time, that you shared on social media. Now, this was you back in the day. I don't know how many birthday candles
Yeah.
ago it was,
10
with
years.
with frizzy wild hair and no shirt on. You're at a party. You're not in shape like you are now, and you're giving the camera
Yeah.
the finger. And the first time I saw it, I went, "Whoa, that is an angry, lost dude."
Yeah.
Like, you could just see it. There was just anger. It wasn't like a playful flip off the camera. This is a guy
Yeah.
who's in pain. So if you don't
Yeah.
mind saying the difference of 10 years ago to now, what got you to there and what got you here from there?
Yeah. So my wife and I got married in 2009. When we first met, literally the day we met, she said, I just got diagnosed with a disease called endometriosis. And so she said, I'm probably going to have surgeries and stuff. And previous to me meeting her, I had had an abortion with another gal. So I was already like drinking and partying. And it was real talk. It was heavy for me. It was depression. Right. And so I met Tanya, we got married. She says that she has endometriosis. And I literally looked at her and said, listen, that's probably just like a punishment because I've already had an abortion. Like, it's okay. Like, this is just how it's supposed to be. Well, when we got married, she had 4 more surgeries. On the 5th surgery, she actually had to have a hysterectomy. And so when we got married in 2009, from 2009 to 2012, like that was what we were dealing with. We were dealing with the fallout of endometriosis. We were dealing with the heaviness of her missing work, and her health sucked. And like, many a day she spent crying on the floor, bawling her eyes out, unable to do anything. And here I am, 6'3", 220 pounds, like, yo, let me help. And there was nothing I could do. There was absolutely nothing I could do for her, or what, other than be there for her. And I wasn't even good at that because I literally kind of like shut down. Obviously, sex and all that wasn't a thing. We were going through the crap, right? And so along the way, I was playing in a volleyball tournament and I bent my elbow backwards. And she said, here, I got 2 of these. And it was prescription pain pills. And I took them 2 pain pills, man. And the freaking Twilight Zone took off. Like, it was a whole new world for me. And for the next 3 years, like I said, up until you seen that picture, my wife continued to battle endometriosis, and I began to become a humongous drug addict. And we got into motorcycles. But previous to that, I was riding motorcycles and stuff, and ended up becoming involved in motorcycle clubs. And I actually ended up starting my own. So I'm the president of this motorcycle group. And dude, we're running wild. When I say running wild, the last year that I owned my bike before I went to treatment, which I'll get to, we literally rode like 300 miles short of 10,000 miles, all in the state of Nebraska. Like, which is a lot for a motorcycle. And so, and I'm talking like maybe 4 or 5 months we did that. So it was 100 miles an hour every day, all day. Like, I was fueled by energy drinks and prescription pain pills. When you seen that picture of me, my wife had a hysterectomy. She was actually putting dreadlocks in my hair. That's why it was all fluffed out, because he had to like, spike it all out or whatever. But about 2 months after that, I ran out of pills and I started withdrawing and going through all the motions, and it was a horrible experience. And about 3 days into it, I looked to her and I said, look, I'm either going to go rob the freaking pharmacy or I need to go get help. And she said, well, I guess it's time for you to go get help. So I literally called, I was working for a major railroad. I called the employee assistance program that they had. Dude gets on the phone. It's like 12 o'clock at night on a Friday night. And he says, when do you want to go? Next week, next month, next year? And I said, no, I needed to go last week. I needed to go 2 weeks ago. I said, I need to go now. And in 48 hours, I loaded a plane and flew to Knoxville, Tennessee to go to treatment. I was taking 6,000 milligrams of gabapentin and Oxycontin a day, smoking 3 packs of cigarettes. I was 260 pounds. Yeah.
Here's two really important things about that. You've got your wife and you've got this guy on the other end of the phone at midnight who could have just told you to go screw off or whatever, because not everybody's company
Yeah.
is that
Yeah. Yeah.
willing to take you by the hand and go, hey, we got you, brother. We're gonna get you to this, or guide you through. So there's two angels right there
Yeah, for
reaching into
sure.
the darkness for sure. Now,
Yeah.
how long were you in the rehab or the detox program, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, so I was completely detox. Other than I had smoked a bunch of marijuana because the detox was so bad. It was so hard on me because gabapentin is a nerve pill, and so I literally got restless leg syndrome. I don't know if anybody's ever had that, but like I got it in every joint on my body. So like I was like cringing and writhing on the floor. Like it was a very miserable situation. And that dude you talked about, he literally said, I don't care what you need to do, just be on the plane in 48 hours. He said, smoke dope, do drug, like do whatever, just get to where you need to go. So yeah, I smoked a bunch of weed and ended up got there thankfully, and I spent 34 days in treatment. And honestly, when I left there, that was it for me for prescription pills. Man, they scared the crap out of me. I have like haven't touched them since. Scares the crap out of me. It's nothing that I want to ever partake in again. You know, like it wasn't for me.
Yeah. And now that what qualifies you, and this is why I respect you a lot, is you went through the fire and you came out the other
Yeah,
side. I mean, we see so many people that we hear them talk and they talk this big game and get this great marketing thing, and you're looking at them going, man, you never went through any of that. Come on, you don't
yeah,
know how it feels. You read a study, you read a survey, you know the science behind it, but you weren't the one writhing around on the floor. You weren't the one with every joint in your body
mm,
just going wild with pain and anxiety and all of that, to now where you are. Now you're a speaker, you're a coach.
yeah,
You and your wife are actually, you host your own events to help other couples get through their relationship issues and to create the greatest version of their relationships. And again, you didn't
yeah,
just go to some weekend seminar and get the certificate that says, hey, congratulations, Dustin and Tanya, you're now, you're counselors and coaches and all that. So explain a
yeah.
little bit about the Iron Table, and also what you do with the relationship uh,
Yeah, so we're
coaching.
we're we're just getting started firing up with the Iron Table and the relationship stuff. Like I said, my wife and I, when you go through what we've gone through, obviously she had to have a hysterectomy, so we were unable to have children. I was 27, she was 26. I'm now 38. And so it's a whole different ball game, and you got to learn. Like we've had massive problems in intimacy. We've went months without any sexual contact. We've had, where we've actually committed to, I was going to sleep with another woman at one point because like it just wasn't possible for her. And that situation actually ended up saving our marriage. She said we had discussed it, we had planned it out, like sat down together, had an agreement, the whole thing. And the week that it was supposed to happen with me and this other gal, my wife said, don't do it. Like I can't let you do that. And that was like the her deciding to be in the fight for our marriage, her deciding to, step back into it because we had been pulled apart because of hormones. And like when I was the president, man, we're riding in motorcycle clubs and we're doing all these things. Like it's a huge ego thing. So I'm flirting with girls, I'm doing all the things. Like there's been a ton of growing and evolving in ourselves. Like basically what's happened over the last 10 years is we have been on the deepest, darkest personal development space. And I'm not talking like reading, but I'm talking like internal, self-love and healing and acceptance and things like that, individually and as a couple. Like we've done 4 plant medicine ayahuasca journeys, and like we've really really dove into becoming our best selves, not like you said just on social media or whatever. Like I want to be my best self all the time. And so really getting down to all of the brass tacks of life and going through the fire, like you said, together. And so my passion is literally just like helping people go through the fire. I think there's a lot of hurt. I think there's a lot of people that need healing, man. And it likely doesn't look like a social media post or a follower or a new car or anything like that. It usually looks like loss and hurt and pain, and it's a ride, man. It's a true ride. But like 10 years later, I found God along the way. It's been the greatest thing ever for me. Like my heart's on fire for God, man, and helping people literally through find strength through struggle at the end of the day is all we're trying to do. However we end up doing it, however we do it, it's what we talk about. It's what we became. It's who we are at the end of the day. Is My whole goal in life is to be the most real and raw and authentic, genuine human being. When you meet me today, offline, online, in person, on stage, at a book signing, whatever that is, like I care for you. I'm here for you, and I want you to feel the same way I do. Like I've been suicidal, I've been depressed, I've been all of that, and there's so much more on the other side of that when you're willing to work through the crap.
Yeah. Oh man, I mean, literally, and most guys won't admit this. You just gave me goosebumps with what you said because it echoes what I shared not even 3 hours ago. I'm a big follower of Ed Milet. He's one of my favorite speakers on
Yeah,
the planet. And he
yeah,
put a post on LinkedIn earlier today and said, "What's your superpower?" And in all capital
yeah,
letters, I wrote authenticity because that's mine. And I wrote right in there, I'm the same
yeah,
person on on purpose, on stage, off stage, backstage, standing on the street corner, or walking down the Captain Crunch aisle in the grocery store. And the reason I put
yeah.
that one at the end is because I had an amazing conversation with a guy who had heard me speak 3 years prior to that day, saw me in a grocery store, reached out and said, "Hey man, you're that speaker, right?" And he held his hand out and shook my hand and he said, "I remember the story, one of the stories you told, the picture that was on the screen, the lesson, and I applied it a week later to get a job because it was an unemployment
Mm,
networking group." And 3 years later, he sees me in a grocery store and he said, "Man, you're just the same as you were on stage that day in the conversation we had." So, man, I 100% honest. And I love what you shared too about how we don't put up this plastic life on social media. And we see all
yeah,
these influencers out there they fabricate this amazing thing. But what we're also very sadly seeing is several of these people per year are committing suicide because what they're putting
yeah,
out there is it's their dopamine hit, all the likes, all the comments, all the shares, all the fans, all the followers, and all of this building up this huge thing. But like you said earlier, they got this empty house where it's just them
yeah,
in their own pain and
yeah,
torment, and they can't share, for whatever reason, they can't share that with the rest of the world. And something you also said recently on social media, and I've got it right here, it says, "Even in the darkest times or the scariest places, there's always a light." And you shared more about it, but if you want to elaborate on that a little bit, of how somebody that might be feeling the darkness right now can just pivot those couple degrees or turn around 180 degrees. How can people find the light if they're feeling like there's none right now?
yeah, man. It's so cool. I actually got that revelation this morning. I walked out. I currently live in a school bus, and my wife and I travel all over the country. And so I'm in Tucson, Arizona. I opened the bus door. It's right before 7 a.m. and the sun was in front of me, coming up in the clouds. And I turned around, and the moon was behind me. And it was like God spoke to me and said, "It doesn't matter where you are. I always provide a light." And it was like there's light, the sun during the day, and during the night the moon is behind me, and the moon is that light in the darkness. And if the moon's not shining, there's stars, and they're like little flashlights that hold their light for you. And if you're going through a tunnel, there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. And even if like the darkest thing in the world is probably a cave, if you walk into a cave as far back as you can go and turn around, there's a light that you already walked through. So in the womb, you tucked your head, and hopefully you put your head first to go towards the light. And I've heard it said a million times, before you die, people often say like, go towards the light. Well, that light is what's guiding us. That light is what's taking us where we need to go. I got chills.
Mm.
And that light is always there. That light is always provided for us. It's not something that we have to provide for ourselves. And when you grab a hold of that light, and you follow that light, for me it's been God. It can be the universe, it can be whatever, but like for me, that light is God. When I grabbed a hold of him, I realized too that like now not only do I have a light, but I can be a light to so many other people. So now it's my job to hold the flashlight for somebody else to see the light. And that's what I think like the whole purpose of life is to go through your stuff and then turn around and shine your light for someone else to go through it too.
Yeah. Oh man, you and I are so similar. I mean, we even say some of the same phrases and stuff. So as you're saying it, I don't know if you're looking in the camera or not, but I'm sitting here nodding and smiling. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is such the perfect conversation to be having. In the way you just said, taking hold of the flashlight and shining it for others. One thing, and this is something I share with a lot of people, be very cautious about whose hand you're holding on your journey. Some hands want to clap and cheer you on, smack you on the back, point you in the right directions. Other hands sometimes want to not let go to hold you down. And sometimes this can be family, it can be friends, it can be people you ran with at a certain phase in your life. And there's a lot of people where I say, hey, look, sometimes you got to let go of certain people, even if it's family or you have to live under the same roof. You have to work in the same environment with people, but at a very emotional level, let go of some of these people. You got to let them stop affecting you or dragging you down. You got to rise above, whether you're holding God's hand or looking in the mirror and just telling that person, hey, today we're going to rise up, and continue to get better and walk towards the light, not get dragged down by all this drama and chaos and everything, all the negativity of the world. So if somebody's feeling that right now and going, yeah, I'm running out of hands, I can't even reach the damn flashlight because I feel like I got all the weight of the world holding me back. What would you suggest to somebody who's even feeling that right now as the first most basic steps?
The first most basic step is to make the first step towards the light, whatever that looks like for you. But real talk, like what that meant for me was to just keep going. Just keep going. Even when you went too far into the cave and you couldn't see the light anymore, like start feeling your way around. What's that mean? What's that look like? I don't know. Get down on your hands and knees and crawl or pray. And literally, like when I got suicidal, 2 years ago, I lost myself. I was completely freaking. I hated everything about myself. I didn't like anything. I didn't enjoy anything. And I literally was sitting in this bus, pondering to myself, blowing my brains out. And the only thing I could think of was, would they even hear it if the gun went off? Like that was as low as I was. Like I was only concerned if they would even hear it. And so as I was there, like as I was in that spot, it was like God spoke to me and he said, listen, I know that you're hurting and I know all the pain that you are feeling right now. But understand that if you go through with what you're about to go through, that pain will go with you into eternity, and eternity is forever. And it was like Smalls in the Sandlot, forever. And that was all that I could hear, right? And he said,
Yeah.
or you can get up, you can dust yourself off, you can take my hand, and we can spend the rest of your life trying to do whatever we can together to make you feel 1 ounce better than you do today. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna take that chance. I'm gonna walk with that. I'm gonna face my demons and I'm gonna do whatever I can for the rest of my life to not feel like I did on that day. And along the way, I've shined my light and seen my light and been able to share it with other people. And it's just been a real cool situation.
Yeah, and something that I read that you shared, and you just keep you just keep setting me up so perfectly to share this stuff, and I really do appreciate that the connection that we have for this because we both do so deeply care not just about ourselves but mostly other people and how we can be
Yeah.
an influence sharing everything that we've gone through, and I love what you wrote here. If you put your worth in the completion of your goal, you will only find yourself empty and miserable after it's done. Instead, fall in love with the process and realize it's the becoming of a new you that's the whole goal in the first place. And I love one of the tags that you say often: spread love, never settle.
Yeah, that's how I sign out of everything, and it's a reminder for me to spread love to everybody that I meet. I'm currently like, 150 yards from someone who's homeless and living in a tent, and I'm another 150 yards from somebody with a $150,000 camper. Like, it's easy to think that I should, be more appreciative of the person with the camper, but at the end of the day, it's the person in the tent too. Like, so spread love to everybody that I meet, and never settle is like always be changing, always be learning, always be growing, always be doing the best that you can, no matter where you're at or what you got going on.
Yeah, and also too in the earlier part of the message, something I share with people, it's never goals are never, in my opinion, what you get, it's who you become in the process. And we see so
Yeah,
many people, people that they win the lottery. Now they've got a broke mindset for their life and what they deserve, and their self-esteem and confidence are in the garbage, but they win the lottery. What happens within 3 to 5 years? They're broke, they're depressed, they're suicidal, they're addicted, divorced, whatever, because they didn't become the person they needed to be. They didn't get acclimated to it. And you spent now 10 years
yeah,
making yourself a much healthier version, a happier version, a loving version, a caring version, an inspiring version. You're on stages now talking about all of this where so many people would never think to do that. So you've
yeah,
become, this version of yourself that you now get to go help. I hesitate to say the word rescue. You get to go help the person you used to be, because the person you are now, inspired by your relationship with God, inspired by other people who reached their hands back out, inspired by the guy who answered the phone at midnight that you used to work with,
right.
that got you
Yeah,
to
a hundred
rehab.
percent.
So yeah, that I love that
Yeah,
part of the
a hundred
journey.
percent.
And now you're, now as a speaker, of course, I've been a speaker for almost 20 years. And the old joke was, thanks to Chris Farley, living in a van down by the river. Man, you're living in a converted bus who could park by a river. And I do
Yeah,
know the story that you parked by a very cool wonder of nature. You parked by a geyser one time, which most of us will never see in our lifetime. What
yeah.
was wondrous about that for you and inspiring?
So yeah, like because we travel all the time, because we have taken this opportunity, because we have chose to do this, like we sold all of our stuff originally to give up the things to have experiences, and experience is like what life is supposed to be about. It to me, life is a journey, and you're supposed to be moving and grooving all the time. And so when we use different apps and different things to figure out where we're going to stay and things like that. And we seen this cool geyser in Utah right off of the Colorado River, and so it's like 25 miles off the highway, back in the middle of nowhere. There's no towns anywhere near, and so we spent a couple nights literally 50 feet from the river and 50 feet from this geyser that goes off like every hour and a half, shoots 25 30 feet of water into the air. And it's just stuff like that that's like really really cool. Another one, we haven't stayed at it yet, and I think it was maybe in Utah too, but there was an old nuclear bomb site, and like it still shows up on the scales. Like if they run the geyser counter or whatever, it still shows up that it has nuclear. But like they used to hold nuclear warheads there. Like you could stay there. Like it's just it's crazy stuff that you can come into. But I mean, we've been to 23 national parks. We've been to 38 different states. Like it's insane all the things we've got to do, and all because we chose to like live differently than most people, and do things differently than what the world says.
Oh man, I love that. Me and my wife Tina, we don't
Yeah,
travel very much. We live in a little town in New Hampshire on a dead end street, off another dead end street out in the woods, and
yeah,
we're super happy with this. But she has even said, because she works real hard with a job, she's very stressed out, works from home, so it can be a little stifling after a while. And she said,
yeah,
"Honey, someday could we maybe get an RV and just drive around and see some cool stuff? And as long as we get decent Wi-Fi or a signal, we can both do our jobs."
yeah.
And I said, you know what?
Do
That
it.
actually sounds really amazing. And now I know you, my speaker agent, actually did a tour like that of national parks a number of years ago. And because she did that, she connected with so many people. She's actually gotten me speaking events because of the people she met. So I'm like, hey, get back on the road, Nancy. Go ahead, go
Yeah,
again until I can get out there.
yeah,
It's just so amazing that if we have something we want to do, and I always say, would I regret not doing this when I'm old and gray, sitting on the front porch in a rocker, maybe physically unable to do what I can do now? I'll be 55 next month. Healthiest, happiest version of me there's been in a long time right now, because I don't want to be a burden physically on my Tina as I grow older. So that's why I'm on a very, very disciplined fitness journey now. And I'm feeling great. And I just want to get
yes,
out there and experience
good.
more. I'm having the best conversations. I'm so much more confident now with everything I do, and just the most authentic version of me right now. And I'm just so honored to have had you on the radio show for you to talk about that as well.
Thank you, man. And I totally tell you that you absolutely should try it. And maybe you only do it for a month and you find out you hate it, but you would never know if you didn't try it at least for a month. You said the word regret somewhere in your statement when you were talking. And like I said earlier, like to die with regret. I wonder what would have been like if we had traveled around the country. I wonder what it would be if I would have started that business. I wonder how my life would have been different if I would have taken care of my health. Like that's regret. And we don't want to die with regret. So I challenge anybody, like if you got something on your heart, do whatever it takes. Like I have left no stone unturned. I have left no resource not tapped. Like we have sold our entire life to do what we do and to be who we are, and that is all that we have is who we are, and that's all that matters to me at this point in life. And it's like, do it, man. If you got something on your heart, do whatever it takes to make it happen.
Yeah. And even get out there, like you said, go do it for a month, see if you like it. I used to call that the slivers. I
Yeah.
worked with somebody very early on in my coaching, woman, probably at the time, I'd say in her late 30s, working 60, 70 hours a week, very high pressure job. And she was ready to chuck it. She wanted to go work with children with disabilities in the nonprofit
Mm.
sector, but she said, I can't give up the paycheck and the benefits because she owned a house and all that. And I said, well, how about if you just took 1 hour on one Saturday morning a month? Could you research maybe some groups in your community who are actually doing this stuff and just go volunteer? And she said, I never thought of it. And she went bowling a few weeks later with a group of children with disabilities. And she just was one of the volunteers. Kind of, she had a couple of kids that she worked with to help them out with that. And she goes, I had the time of my life. And about 2, 3 months later, she said, I don't even mind working 60 hours, 70 hours a week anymore because I
Yeah.
have that recharges my soul once or twice a
Yeah.
month. And then she started going and walking dogs at an animal shelter. And she wound up adopting two
Mm.
cats from that shelter. So now she always came home alone to her home. Now she has
Oh
two
wow.
cats that drive her absolutely crazy every night. And the cats actually get on the phone and talk with me every now and then when we have a coaching conversation. If I call it mealtime, believe me, I hear the cats. But it's so
Yeah.
amazing to hear the joy of somebody who just even tapped into something. And you almost have that little told you so thing, but you just say, proud of you. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you. And
Yeah.
I sit here at
Yeah.
my recording studio with my coaching clients, jumping up and down, laughing, crying, screaming, yelling, cheering them on, high fiving the camera all the time. And
Yeah.
it's amazing to see when somebody says, hey, you inspired me to do this. Oh man, is there a better feeling in the world than that?
For sure. Yeah. And that's what I think our purpose is, man.
Yeah. If people want to get a hold of you, Dustin, to learn more about the programs, the relationship and the couples work you're doing with Tanya as well, how can people learn a bit more about the two of you and of course about the Iron Table? And you're also the founder of Iron Sharpens Iron. So where can people go to learn more and connect with you and just tap into the great energy that you're creating?
I would go to Dustin G Johnson at on Instagram,
Mhm.
and under my bio, you can get to all of our links and podcasts that we've recorded and things that we've done, books that we've wrote, things like that. And so it's like the best accessibility to me. Plus, then we can connect. You can message me. Like I'm down to talk if you got questions, or if you are the person that doesn't have the light, like I'll be the light for you. Message me and let's chat.
Awesome. Dustin, thank you so much for being a part of the Motivational Firewood Radio Show, brother. I know we're going to connect again soon and we'll catch up with each other somewhere on the road this year. Hey, maybe even up in New Hampshire. We're both part of a
Come
group
on.
called Becoming Iconic. So we may be sharing a
Yeah,
stage at an iconic event coming up as well. So I look forward to
I
that.
would
But
love that.
thanks so much for being here.
Appreciate you, man.